Bonjour, everyone. Hi, this is Neshi Locatz. Welcome to Star Nations Radio Network's live stream show. I don't know. I just kind of screwed up the intro, didn't I? Actually, I was going to say welcome to Star Nations Organization's main fan page, and I had the radio network in my head. Too funny. That's what happens when you're multitasking too many things at one time. Too many things going on in the head, right? So today is about the live stream card draw and the information of the energy that's important for us to know about today. It's a live stream that I do every day, practically, not every day, but we try to. Yeah, it's an interesting day, that's for sure. Monday. It's a Monday feeling. So today is Monday, September 10th, and the reason why it's kind of like a lot all at one time is because we're publishing Star Nations magazine this afternoon. We're on the cusp. I have one more thing I've got to get done before we can actually publish, and that's working with iTunes Connect. Yeah. So I got one more thing to do, and then we're ready to hit the publish button and then do all kinds of promotion for it, right? And I want to check something. I want to make sure that we are actually have sound and such. Oh, good. Yay. I'm checking on my phone. And sometimes what happens is Facebook, I don't know what it is with Facebook. Sometimes the comments don't always show up right away. It's like they collect them in a catch or something and then release them when either the timeout has elapsed or they have X number in the catch. So I don't know. Just checking. And while I'm here on my phone, I may as well share and like the live stream. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that to my my news feed, and I'm just going to tell my friends that I am live streaming. And it doesn't take long. I'm live streaming. And please join me. Oops. Fingers are faster than the quick keys. There's one. We'll post that one. Hi, good morning, Cindy Lynn. I'm just sharing out the live stream right now. And then I'm going to share it to the group. And we're going to do it to the closed group for Star Nations Radio Network and Magazine. That is the one group that probably is the most active part of the community. And so I just want to let them know. And so, and this is the group I always call the peeps, because they're my peeps. Live streaming. And we're just going to say, please join. There we go. Done. There. That's always good. I remembered this morning. The one thing I remember. Good morning, Rochelle. How are you? And Polly Joe is here too. Polly Joe. Good morning to you, lady. Welcome back from vacation. I bet you're all rested and with that R&R, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Isn't that what they say? Right after vacation. Yeah, right. Sometimes we need a vacation from the vacation when we get home, right? And Cindy Lynn is saying, good morning, ladies. That's good. Yay. Now, yeah, today is a busy day here at Star Nations. We're publishing the September issue of Star Nations magazine. And like I said, I have one last thing to do before we hit the publish button. And we're doing the publishing this afternoon. After lunch, after I get done with kitchen duty with my mom. And so somewhere after 1 o'clock Central Time, and can't wait. Publishing day is always a fun day. It's a happy day for me to be able to share with so many other people the labor of love, really, from so many people from the contributing writers to the photographers to the layout specialists, our partners at Elm Publishing, to the editors, Sharon Rosenblum, Eunice Norwood, and Elise Miller, and Paul Locotts, and my mom. And yeah, we get a lot of people who look at the magazine before it even gets published. I've got George hair everywhere, all over. I'd forgotten what that was like. Yeah, and we're going to be adding George to the team, I think, right? The publishing team. Yeah, so we're ready. We're poised to do that, and we're gearing up for Tuesdays. Tuesday is a big day for Star Nation's radio network shows, live stream shows, and so gearing up for that. And so there's a lot of Star Nation's energy today, getting everything prepared for flight. Yeah. Good. Rochelle says she's doing good. That's good to hear. Yeah. Hey, Rob just joined. Rob and that wicked sense of humor that makes us laugh so much. Good you're here. I know that you're at work, and so you're probably just listening, which is good. That's all right. What else? I have help here today. That's always a good thing. The ladies who clean my house, their business is called Susie Clean. And Susie cleans more than just houses. I don't know if I'm the only one, but there might be another family, maybe, where she helps with the gardens too. So she and her staff come in, and they pretty up the gardens. They were here earlier in the late spring, I would say, to do some weeding. And then today we're getting ready for the class that's happening here at Star Nation's Academy on the weekend of September 22nd, The Magic of Hogwarts. And so we're getting the grounds and the house and all of that prepared, the academy prepared. I still have to paint. I'm painting the new bathroom. I'm fitting that in somehow. It'll get done. And so we're just doing the final touches for all that stuff too. Yeah, so it's always a busy day at Star Nations. Absolutely. Yeah, and today's card draw was kind of funny because Mondays and Thursdays are bath days, and so those are always kind of interesting mornings, because I never know how long it's going to take, and so figuring out the new normal, with George in the house, so we had to do that kind of juggling a little bit this morning, and when I was doing the card draw, I had to sit on the floor with him in order for him to stop barking. And so I'm sitting on the floor, and I've got the deck of cards in my hands, and I'm getting set, right? Calling in the team and my spiritual team, and shuffling the cards. He was all over the cards. I was trying to keep them out of his mouth, and because he's teething, And so I was asking my team, I said, all right, we need some help here. Can somebody please come and help with George? Can you help him play on his own for a couple minutes, or at least have him not attack the cards? And sure enough, it took a couple seconds, but, he found another toy to play with just for a few minutes, and I was able to do the card draw. So you can call on your spiritual team for any kind of help. I know Polly Joe likes to call on them to. What do you say? You're the queen of finding parking spots because you use your team to do that. Yeah. And coffee tastes so good. So here's the card that came this morning. It says, I feel no guilt when I say no to someone. I feel no guilt when I say no to someone. And the back side of the card, it's better to say no when you need to and to say yes when you want to. Otherwise, anger will creep in, and you'll resent the person or the obligation. Yeah, another good card, isn't it? Yesterday's was, I think, a very challenging card. Today is more about how we walk our talk. Yeah. I think the someone, whoever that is that you're saying no to or want to say no to, makes a difference on whether or not you say it. No. There are some people in our lives where it's very difficult to say no to them. It's not usually difficult for them to ask for things, but it's difficult for us to say no, depending on who they are, right? So I'm sure that you have someone in your life, or maybe more than one, that you have in your life when you have a difficult time telling them no. Yep. I know I do. I know I do. And they know exactly who they are too. And many times, what I end up doing is saying, can I think about that? Or I can't really answer that right now because there's so much going on. I need some time to think about it. I have to try to figure it out if I can do it or not. Because it slows down the train a bit, right? It gives you a little bit of a break, a pause to be able to determine, yes, do I want it? Do I want to say yes or no? I should say no. I want to say no. Why can't I say no? That's a big question. That's a big question. And have you ever noticed that the people sometimes, especially adults that it's kind of difficult to say no to, is that they keep talking to you until they talk you into it. Yeah. And there's a part of us that actually knows what they're doing. And yet we end up sometimes actually doing the complete opposite of what we really want to do. And what we want to do is say no, but we end up saying yes. And then feeling the guilt, and then feeling the guilt is about not following what we wanted to say, which was no. And then in creeps the anger, and then eventually the resentment. And usually we're saying things to ourselves like, that's the last time. I'm not doing this again. I'm telling them no next time. This is it. I'm drawing the line. I'm going to be, I'm an oak tree, I'm strong. I can say no. And the next time rolls around and you become a sapling again. Does anybody have that in their lives? Has anybody experienced that? I'm sure you have. Yep. Yeah. Polly Jo is saying her line is, I'll get back to you. Yeah, and she's saying no more smiling and nodding either. Hey, good morning, Motto. Uh-huh. Yeah. For those who are just joining us, this is the card that came today. I feel no guilt when I'm saying no to someone. Okay. And the flip side is that it's better to say no when you need to and to say yes when you want to. Otherwise, anger will creep in and you'll resent the person or the obligation. Yeah. In the world that Rob is saying, I'm more of a sap than a sapling. Well, I don't know about that, Rob. Could say a willow tree, because they're very flexible, willow trees. But this is different than being flexible. This is different. To me, flexibility is being in the flow of the energy and willing to change as things come up, to be able to change direction if you need to be in the flow. To me, that's flexibility. not being so entrenched in something that even though that there's change coming, you keep doing the same thing over and over. That's inflexibility for me. Saying, wanting to say no and intending to say no. But the person that you have difficulty saying no to, what they end up doing is a bug crawling on me. I don't know what that was. More George stuff. They end up talking to you enough that they will talk you into saying yes, And sometimes they do hit the guilt button. They do. If you can't do this for me, then I guess I'm not sure exactly where that's going to leave me. And and they have the puppy dog eyes, and they pull on the heartstrings, and we know, there's a part of us knows that this is clear emotional and mental manipulation. We all have somebody like that in our lives. There's some people, some of us have learned how to defend against that, right? Some of us. I was just thinking back at some relatives that I have that, they have a master's degree in this kind of manipulation, and it's not like you don't know that it's there, that it's happening. I've always wondered what part of that, of our makeup, lends to agreeing to saying yes, even though you want to say no. Is it people pleasing? Is it because you don't want to be in a confrontation if you say no? Is it fear? Because it takes courage to say no to somebody. It does. It takes courage. Yeah. That emotional manipulation. But then again, here's the flip side of it. Maybe they're playing this part for us so that we can learn how to say no, so that we can stand in that energy of courage to say no, and to learn how to say no with an amount of kindness besides. You don't have to be, mean and ugly to say no. You can say no in a good way. And those people who test us, who play that role for us, that's got to be a difficult role as a soul. As a soul, it must be a difficult role to play, to be the antagonist. What do you guys think about that? You have somebody in your life like that? Because, we all have heard or read about it's healthy to say no. Actually, it's about boundaries, right? It's about boundaries, and to be able to say no to somebody sets those boundaries or keeps those boundaries. But what happens, because nobody talks about this one, I haven't heard it anyway, is that that we have those people in our lives that test us, that test those boundaries, that will, they might not always be in your life. They may show up when they need something, or when they call. You can feel your stomach muscles, get tight, your diaphragm area, your solar plexus. you might go, oh no, not them. You might even screen your calls, right? So eventually, even that, you feel like, oh God, I got to answer that call. I have to return their call. It could be a relative, right? Be a relative. Um, and so we feel some sort of obligation, an obligation um, to reply to them, to answer them. Yeah. You got no boundaries. Just want to check to make sure. Let's see. Just checking something on my phone. Because, oh, good. All right. Because I can never tell when the comments get stuck, and I don't want to miss a comment that you might have made. And Elise just joined. Good morning, Elise. So, saying no. I feel no guilt when I say no to someone. It's better to say no when you need to and yes when you want to. Otherwise, anger will creep in and you'll resent the person or the obligation. Yeah. Do you ever notice that it's so much easier to say no to strangers, people you really don't know? Yet we don't have any emotional attachment to them. It's the people who we love, the people who we think we should love, that it's harder to say no to them. And yet that's where we usually need the best boundaries. Isn't that the truth? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Something to think about. When was the last time you said no to somebody and it was a difficult no? It was a difficult no because it was a person who you'd like to be able to say yes to, but you can't. Because if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. Do we ever have? And yet, when you do say no to certain things and to certain people, that in the end, it really does feel like a sense of relief too, right? It frees up your energy for other things. Robinson, I remember an episode of Mork and Mindy where Mork is having difficulty saying no. Really? I never saw that one. Yeah, and isn't there a movie too? Isn't it? Is Yes Man? Yes Man? Something like that. Where you can only say yes. You can only say yes to whatever is being asked. You say yes, and when you say yes, you open up to the universe, right? And the universe will give you whatever you need. Yeah, that's being expansive rather than restrictive. And it's supposed to be a comedy, but when I watched it, I thought, it's healthy to say no sometimes. It is healthy to have those boundaries. Especially, there's also another old saying is that if you want to get something done, like in a project or a group or something like that, if you want to get something done, you ask the busiest person to help. I think that happens for a few reasons. One is the busiest person knows how to organize and delegate to a certain degree. And so they get a lot done in a really small period of time, right? And so they kind of know how to add one more thing to the mix and get things done, right? And yet, on the other hand, that same person, many times, they're the ones that burn out the fastest too, when their energy isn't balanced, um, and not working with and co-creating with nature, but rather than pushing their will, right? Yeah. Hey, Nellie Kelly's here. Mervin's here. Hi, everybody, he says. And Lisa's saying, hi, Nellie. Rob is saying, I remember his first attempt at it was slamming the door in a Girl Scout's face, yelling, no. Oh, my gosh. Polly Joe's, yep, really recently. Yeah. Good morning, Elise. Rochelle is saying, I used to say yes all the time. Now I do not have any problem whatsoever saying no. Well, that's good. And that's no to anybody, right? Across the board. No, 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 no. No to strangers, that's the easiest one. No to acquaintances, that's easy too. No to your inner circle. Those friends, and possibly family, who are your inner circle peeps. Sometimes it's harder to say no to them. Although they would understand if you said no. And then there's those people, there's the one or two people that I was describing that test our boundaries. And yeah, they're really good at that emotional manipulation to try to get you to say yes. Uh-huh. Rob says he also gave away his winter coat to a wino in exchange for a drink out of his bag. Yeah. And Michelle's saying it's across the board. Well, good for you. You have good boundaries then. You really do. You have good boundaries. It's pretty rare, actually. It's pretty rare because I think that as especially energy workers and healers, because we are consciously in service to others. And so when somebody comes to us in need, we really try to help them as best we can. As best we can. And saying no, in fact, last year, I think it was actually beginning and end of 2016 and all of 2017, I was saying no to clients. I was saying no to teaching, which was really hard for me to do. But especially the healing, the energy work. As you all know, it was a tough year for me. And I felt that my energy in the way it was not really being helpful to other people. Could actually have been more of a detriment. And so I pulled back from my client work and was telling people no and referring them to others. Did it feel good? Not necessarily. Not when I first started, no. But once I got a couple of them realigned with someone else to help them, I felt good about it. I did, because one, I was actually being more helpful that way. And the teaching, saying no to teaching, was actually the more difficult part, I think, because I love to teach. That watching those that are in the class, when they have their aha moment, when they have that epiphany, when they connect their own dots and they realize they hit that realization, there's nothing like it, and to support them through that, that was much more difficult. But it was the right decision to make, to say no to teaching. And now, I put a different term on it. I say that I'm on travel restriction. Travel restriction. I can't, yeah, taking care of mom, and not having any real backup for it. Um, yeah, you have to make those kind of decisions, right? So I just call it travel restrictions because there'll come a day where I am much more mobile again, and it'll all be good. It's just getting through that piece, right? Saying no um, to that was part of the soul growth that I was going through. Yeah, and that's where I was when I was talking about that one or two people, a few people that play that role for us, um, to talk us into saying yes when we really want to say no. Um, and that role that they play for us was really about our soul contract and our soul growth, really. Yeah. And the one time in my family that I did say no, and it was a final no, it cost me my parents. It cost me two nieces. It cost me money going to therapy because I was disowned over it. And yeah, that was a dark night of the soul. That was the first real expansion that happened for me, and it literally took me to my knees and changed me forever. It was being that tempered steel. Yeah, because I said no. And I think that when we have difficulty in saying no to somebody, is that we are really dealing with fear about what's going to happen if I say no. Will they be angry with me? Will they leave me? Will they walk away? Yeah, those kinds of things. And so it's really getting to the bottom, to the root of what are those feelings about, why you can't say no to a particular person, even though it might be detrimental to yourself if you continue to say yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Rochelle says, I am a rare person. I know you are. You're one of a kind, Rochelle, one of a kind. Elise says, you're a rare, Nellie, the only man I know named Nellie. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So getting to the bottom of it, right? Getting to the bottom of it is what um, the root of it. Because with this card, I understand. Mentally, I understand what this card is about. I feel no guilt when I say no to someone. I do. I understand that. And I understand that when we do say yes and we don't want to say yes, is that eventually what we end up with anger and resentment emotions. Intellectually, I get that and I agree with it. But emotionally, I think that there's growth in understanding why it's difficult for us to say no to certain individuals when we should be saying no, when we want to be saying no. That because when we continue to say yes, it's actually hurting us in some way. I would like to really, really understand how, if we continue to say yes to everything, like in the Mork and Mindy show thing, how does the universe really receive that, saying yes to everything. I know people who don't even make a reply. You might ask them something and you don't ever hear back from them. It's like, maybe they didn't get my email, which happens. Sometimes it gets lost in cyberspace. And so you ask them again and you still don't get a reply. There's some people who think that, or believe that, if they don't need to reply, that if you don't get the gist of their no reply means no, that's on you. That has nothing to do with them. And so they leave people wondering, what? Wait, I didn't understand. We waited for you because you never replied. I didn't want to say yes or no for you. I was waiting for your reply. And actually, I put that in the category, if you're going to categories, as passive aggressive. Passive aggressive. There's, rather than telling you no, they'd rather not reply. Oh. Mm-hmm. So, the communication sometimes, sometimes it just is, if we could just communicate a little bit better, maybe some things wouldn't even exist, in a negative, because it would put a different spin on telling somebody no or receiving a no. Yeah. Rochelle is saying, depends on the question. No response is a response. That's true. That's true. Yeah, and I think you're right, Rochelle. I think it depends on the situation. On the situation. If you're working on a project together, or if you're planning a trip or something like that, or maybe it's a business situation, and you ask the question for a reply, then a no response, I think, is not acceptable. I mean, not receiving a response. That's better. That's communication again. Not receiving a response is unacceptable, because you have other people waiting to see whether or not are we going to go in this direction or that direction. And if you're going to say no, I say put on your big girl pants and say no. There's no reason to leave some people or even one person hanging, waiting on you, because what's that about? What's that about? Rather than having no response and you're supposed to take that as a no. Maybe they're not saying no because they don't want to feel the rejection of their no. That's a possibility. That's a possibility. Of course, there is also the possibility that it has more to do with control. Yeah, ego. Maybe. Polly Joe is saying sometimes no response happens when people are afraid of confrontation. I think that's the nail on the head, Polly Joe. I really do. That's what I was trying to get at. It's about the not wanting the confrontation, and depending on what it is, sometimes it is about the control issue, that if people are waiting on them for a response, it's a bit of a control issue, and has more ego involvement in it. Yeah, Rob's saying it forces the hand of the other. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? And it takes away some of the responsibility. If something occurs in the decision making And the decision making, because they didn't get a reply, a decision is made, and maybe that decision didn't pan out the way they thought it was going to pan out. The person who didn't reply can just say, that wasn't me. I didn't have anything to do with it. I'm not responsible. You know? And so what does that mean then? It's true, they don't have any responsibility to it because they didn't reply. But is it because they didn't, there's so much involved in that. So saying no, this, I feel no guilt when I say no to someone, is true. That is correct. But it goes so much deeper than that. So much deeper than that. That we do learn lessons, life lessons in that, in either not saying no or saying no. I think that there's so much in that little sentence. It's so much more, and we can learn so much more about ourselves, right? For those who are learning how to create healthy boundaries, and discerning what's a yes and what's a no for them. Yeah, so much involved in it. And we play parts for each other for it, right? And I really do think that those that are in our lives that do the emotional and mental manipulation to get the answer that they want from you, specifically a yes, on a higher perspective of it, a wider perspective of it, is that there's this soul who's part of our soul group who agreed to play this role for us so that we'll learn a certain something from that. Yeah. And then we're left with taking that big, deep breath in and saying, okay, I'm saying no this time. And come what may, the consequences to that no, I know this is the best answer. This is the best for me right now. Takes courage. Takes our spiritual team to be standing there with us saying, go for it, say no. Yeah. Rochelle said it's very rude to make people wait. Yeah, that's true too. That really is true. And we all know some of those people. Some of them are right in our own families where everything is put on hold. You're at dinner. It may be a holiday dinner. It may be a birthday celebration, something like that. And it's the same people who show up late and everything is put on hold. In my family, I'm the one who's usually saying, let's just get started. They come when they come in. They can get caught up with it, Nope. We got to wait. So we wait and we wait. Used to drive my dad up a wall. He'd be pacing. We said we were going to have supper at 1:00. It is now 2:00. And then he'd pull out the grandpa card and grab a plate and he'd start dishing out. Or actually telling me, get me a plate, make me a plate. I'm hungry. And so then I'm putting together a plate for him, And the people who are coming in late, rarely did they do a heartfelt sorry. Rarely. So it is rude. I think so. Polly Joe is saying definitely manipulative at times as well. Yeah. Yep. That's true. Very, very true. So as much as I like Pathway to Healing cards with Brian L. Weiss, MD, I do. And I do agree with this statement. I feel no guilt when I say no to someone. And I agree that it's better to say no when you need to and to say yes when you want to, because otherwise we end up with anger and resentment toward that person or that obligation. I agree. But I'm also saying that it's a lot deeper than this. That when we take our own reflection, our time to ponder why we say no and why we don't say no, who we don't say no to and why, and to be honest with ourselves, is it because we don't want the confrontation, so we say yes, or we don't want the confrontation and don't reply? To understand that part. And is it healthier for us to have a much better boundary, to be an oak tree rather than a sapling, and to say no and say, this is my boundary? That's healthy. That's healthy. So this is actually a really good discussion. I like it. So whatever you heard today, if it resonated with you, any part of it, my suggestion is to grab it, hold on to it, embrace it, see how the energy unfolds for you today and where this information will pop up. Yeah. And see and watch. Are you a direct participant in the unfolding of it? Or are you bearing witness? And I really feel like either way, we're learning something. And so just to be aware of it, right? And then if it doesn't resonate with you, that's okay too. That maybe we're just planting seeds, or maybe you're a messenger. And so you might know somebody who would enjoy or benefit from this discussion. You can just share the video link with them, and then you're the messenger, and you can happily be on your way, right? Yeah. So let's see. Today we're publishing the Star Nation's September issue of the magazine. Watch for the notifications that come out later this afternoon to get your copy. And let's see, tomorrow is a big day here at Star Nations. It's Tuesday, September 11th, and we have lots of shows tomorrow. Lots. We have From Star to Stone with Mervyn Kelly. And Mervyn is going to be talking about all things Druid. Yay! And I'm hoping he's going to pick up where he left off a couple months ago about the Merlin stories. I hope so, because I can't wait to hear some of those. And his show is on at 9 a.m. Eastern. Okay. And so watch for the notifications on that. And we'll be sharing it out too. I'll be in chat. And then at 10 a.m. is this live stream for the energy card of the day. And then coming at noon Eastern is Polly Jo LeBay's show, Chakra Sessions. And she is talking about and sharing about grief, releasing grief, another round of it, because you know that there's a lot of people feeling stuck in their grief. And so it'll be a helpful show. That's at noon Eastern, Polly Jo LeBay and Chakra Sessions. And then I'm back in the evening at 8 p.m. Eastern with Communications from Home. And my guest is Julie Hedges. Julie is one of our live stream show hosts, and she's also a contributing writer to the magazine. And she's also one of our authors. And so she's joining me for going to be a really interesting discussion about standing in your truth and the consequences when we stand in our truth. So that's going to be a good show, I think. Great topic. Wednesday, Polly Jo is back with us at 7 p.m. Eastern for soul sessions. And that's an hour and a half of divine healing and divine messages. If you are an energy worker of any kind, and you haven't paid much attention to your own self-care, your own healing work, Wednesday night, come and join us, because that's what we're there for. Polly Joe creates this sacred space and holds it for us and helps us to release or heal whatever needs to be healed. We go in with our own intentions, working with our own spiritual teams, and doing our own work on ourselves. So that's a great night too. It's not a show. Somebody called it an event. It's an event. It's eventful. It's really good. Join us Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Okay. So with that, enjoy the rest of your Monday, and we'll see you back here Tuesday for a whole bunch of shows. Okay. Bama Mina, until we see each other again. Love you guys.